Well, good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Mike Beam. I'm the Director of Planning and Engineering for the South Dakota DOT. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're very excited to have you. We love transportation. You probably won't find anyone in Rapid City, at least, that is more passionate about transportation than the folks here in this room. It's our life. And really, for a lot of us, we don't recognize how important transportation is. So last night in Mitchell, as we were having our conversation with those good folks, I asked a question and we had a prize. We'll have another prize here tonight. But if anyone can name something in this room that's tangible, something you touch and feel that's not you, that wasn't brought by a truck, we have a free state highway map for you. Can anyone find anything in this room that wasn't brought by a truck? Okay, about the only thing.
I was brought by a truck.
You weren't?
It was.
Yep. And the people, those are one things we didn't want, but there's water back there, right? That water came from the pipe. So that's about the only thing in this room that wasn't brought by a truck. When we think about transportation, just how critical it is to our daily lives, it's easy just to forget that. Whether it's clothes that we have, the food that we eat, the medicines that we need, the things that make our lives function every day. And we are extremely passionate about transportation. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for sharing your excitement, hopefully, about transportation and your ideas. The transportation system, the state highway network we have in South Dakota isn't the DOT's. It's all of ours, right? It's everyone's transportation system. All of us rely upon it. Whether you have a vehicle or not, you still rely on that transportation system. So by engaging partners like you tonight, we hope to make our transportation system better and build better lives through better transportation. And that's really our vision at the department. Before we get going too far, I wanted to introduce a few folks here tonight. First of which, Kasai with Senator Thune's office. Thanks for coming out tonight, Kasai. Thank you. Also from DOT Commission, we have Mr. Ron Rosenboom. Ron, thanks for coming out. And Jeff Karam. Jeff, thank you for coming. From our Federal Highway Administration, we have Kirk Van Rokel in the back room. Kirk, thanks for coming out tonight. We also have a heavy presence of DOT staff here tonight. I just want to introduce a few of them. Mr. Todd Seaman is our region engineer out here in Rapid City. In the front row, Mr. Joel Junt, he's our department secretary. And next to him is Craig Smith. He's our operations director. Craig's team's in charge of really helping to build all the construction projects that we have across our state and also maintaining them, making sure that folks can get where they need to go, whether it's wintertime or summertime with their maintenance staff and the snow fighters we have out there. To my right, far right, I have Mark Leiferman and Levi Briggs. Are both in charge of developing the plan and helping to make sure we can deliver that vision of better lives through better transportation. This is the fourth of four public meetings that we hold across the state. We're also on Zoom tonight and Facebook Live. So I may need to repeat some of the questions when they come up so the folks that are online can actually hear those questions. Hopefully we've got that worked out where we won't need to. We'll get some feedback. I'll go through a very brief presentation. After the presentation, I'll turn it over to Mr. Seaman to highlight some of the projects upcoming in the Rapid City region. And then we'll turn it over for you to hear from you and what your thoughts are about making better lives for better transportation. With that, we'll start with the presentation. Like any asset or transportation system or anything that anybody owns, in order to actually manage or maintain that system, we need to make sure that there's funding available to do so. We're funded through two main revenue streams, federal funds and state highway funds, and both of those are in a highway trust fund. In November of last year, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, was passed. And when we look at a federal bill, we have federal bills that occurred over decades. But as we look at a federal bill, we're always interested, of course, what the funding level is. And secondarily, how long will that federal bill be in place? One of the main reasons for the duration of that bill is that transportation projects take a lot of time to develop. And it takes time for us to build roads. So as we look at a 5-year plan, that gives us a good idea of what that foundational investment amount will be into the next 5 years, or possibly even longer than that. The current bill we're working under is investing $350 billion nationally in transportation. It's a huge amount. For South Dakota alone, we're looking at about $380 million a year in federal aid funds to help build and maintain roads. That's a very important part of what we do in South Dakota. Over 75% of our construction dollars are federal aid. So we need those dollars in order to build and maintain the transportation system we enjoy. The other source of our revenue stream comes from state highway funds, fuel tax and excise tax. So as you go to fill up, there's a fuel tax that goes to the state. And as you purchase a vehicle, there's an excise tax there as well. The excise tax goes into the State Highway Trust Fund, which is constitutionally bound for highway transportation purposes. So again, those funds have to be used for that one sole purpose. So as we have an idea what the investment levels will be in the future, we're trying to focus on where should the priorities be? Where should we really focus the efforts, the future of the transportation system? And the number one thing we're always looking at, of course, is safety. The graph up there represents the number of serious injury crashes and fatal crashes we've seen since 2008. The top line is actually the serious injury crashes. As you can see, that's been on a steady decline since 2008. Last year alone, we had about 495 serious injury crashes in South Dakota. Our goal by 2023 is to be to 400. Our real goal is get towards zero. The bottom line is the number of fatal crashes, fatalities in South Dakota. 2019 was one of the lowest on record, 102 fatal crashes. In 2020, 2021, we saw an increase, 141 and 148 respectively. Those increased crashes, a lot of it's attributed to behavior. Behavioral elements such as speeding, texting while driving, intoxicated driving, crossing over center line, being distracted, all those type of personal behavior aspects play a huge role in safety of our transportation system. As you can see, our goal by the end of 2023 is to get to 100 fatalities. That's 100 too many, and I think all of us in this room can agree with that. So as we look to focus on what can we do to help improve safety, we're focusing on efforts that maybe aren't necessarily pavement or bridges, but instead on things to help curb that driver behavior aspect. The picture in the upper left-hand corner is a centerline rumble strip. I think most folks are familiar with the centerline rumble strip. If you haven't, you drive around South Dakota, you'll find them. Centerline rumble strips, they really have one purpose. That's to forewarn the driver that you're crossing into the other set of lanes. Where we've done the installations of the centerline rumble strips, we've seen a reduction of 62% of fatal crashes. We reduced cross centerline crashes by 47%. Again, this feature doesn't have a transportation or functional purpose from a road standpoint. They're really intended to help drive that driver behavior to make better decisions. In the upper right-hand corner and lower right-hand corner, you see something called the HFST, high friction surface treatment. And folks out in Rapid City area, you're probably familiar with them. You might be driving on one of our roads and you go around a curve, all of a sudden the road looks darker or black. The bottom right-hand corner is the glue or the epoxy that we'll use to actually glue a very, very hard rock or an aggregate to the surface. Mainly, we're focusing on areas where we've seen winter crashes, an over-representation of winter crashes. These treatments are very expensive, so they're very spot specific, where we've seen issues or where we have a propensity for that particular crash to occur. Where we've installed these features, we've seen an 80% reduction in crashes. 80%. That's a huge reduction. That's more people making it home to their families and everyone home safe every day. On the lower left-hand corner, everybody should be familiar with our shoulder rumble strips. That's that sound that you hear and the vibration you feel in your wheel when maybe you just drift off a little bit too far to the right. Although our reductions are 20%, when we see a reduction in fatal crashes where we install the shoulder rumble strips, it's also the #1 fatal crash we see in South Dakota that we're trying to target. That's a single vehicle runoff roadway. Our #1 fatal crash in South Dakota is just that, single vehicle runoff roadway. So we can forewarn that driver before they go off into the ditch and before they go and roll their vehicle that, hey, get back into your lane. We've done our job in trying to get people home safe and healthy every day. Of course, safety is paramount to everything we do, but we also have to have a reliable transportation system. I've got 3 kids myself, and they're at that age right now where they're into about everything. I know most baseball fields like the back of my hand and hockey rinks. So we travel a lot in our family. And our family doesn't measure things by distance. We measure them in time, and that's truly reliability. When we go from Pierre to Rapid City or from Pierre to Aberdeen, the kids never ask, how far is it? They say, how long is it? And usually, depending upon how much water or power rate we have in the car, we can get there within 5 to 10 minutes of it. That's a very reliable transportation system. So the picture you see in the front is our Safe Travel app, our 511 app. If you don't have the 511 app, I highly suggest you get it. Because before we leave for hockey games, I'm checking the 511 app. Because I want to know what the road conditions are. I want to know what time I'm going to have to leave in order to make it there on time. Now, things change over time and during snow events, but this app has been a huge success. It's a huge opportunity for us to be able to communicate with our customers about what the road conditions are. We have 2 seasons in South Dakota, right? We have road construction and we have winter, and that's essentially what we're dealing with. So during those winter times, what's a tool that we can use to make sure that we're getting to our destination safely? And I sincerely hope you're using the 511 app. We can also use the 511 app for construction. And as you use that app, you can plan for that trip. You know the construction's coming up, and you can actually plan for how long you may be delayed. Again, a great opportunity for you to engage and ensure that you're getting your family or yourself there safely. The upper left-hand corner and lower right-hand corner, that's something that you folks probably came through here tonight. We have La Crosse Street Diverging Diamond Interchange under construction right out our front door. Another tool that we're using to help increase reliability. For those of you that have driven La Crosse before we're under construction, you understand that that left turn movement can be very, very tough sometimes. Lots of traffic spillback. This is going to give us an opportunity to clear the traffic. Again, work on that reliability. So folks, if they know they're going to one destination, they can get there in 15 or 20 minutes and have a very good likelihood that they're going to get there. Again, looking at new innovations and ways to help improve the transportation system. The congestion you see in the lower left-hand corner, we're looking at adaptive signals. Adaptive signals can actually change over time to help, again, improve that traffic flow through corridors. Again, bringing that more reliability to our traveling public. So we have safety and reliability. And of course, we don't have a transportation without physical assets. And this map I love the most. It's actually all the bridges in South Dakota. Over 5,700 publicly owned structures in South Dakota. And for those of you that are looking out East River right now, or wherever you're looking, but if you look East River, you can actually see the Jim River Basin. You can see the Big Sioux River Basin. You can see the tributaries tying into it. We have 5,700 structures in South Dakota, and our population is not very high. So our cost per structure is relatively significant. The Transportation Commission since 2015 has adopted the Bridge Improvement Grant Program. So for those of you that are with a county government or city government, or maybe know somebody that is, have a conversation or at least ask some questions about the Bridge Improvement Grant Program. This year alone, on average, about $15 million is put towards the Bridge Improvement Grant Program. And this year we will be putting $33 million towards the Bridge Improvement Grant Program. There's a need on our local government system, our transportation system, our transportation commissioners have acknowledged that and increased the funding again to help make better lives for better transportation. Because as we all know, the transportation system is interconnected. You need that road that goes to your house to get to the interstate to get to grandma's house. You also need that road to go from the field to get your grain to the elevator. So we need to have that interconnected system. As we focus more on the state highway system, we want to take a look a little bit at the age distribution. As you can see, there's a very large number of structures in that 40 to 70 year age group. Coincides pretty well with the build of the interstate era and the federal program that came in those timeframes. We acknowledge that there's a large number of structures that are going to need to be replaced. When they were originally constructed, the anticipated life was about 50 years. We've employed some preservation techniques to extend those lives, 75 years. So we're seeing good conditions right now. In fact, 95% of our bridges are in good to fair condition on the state highway system. Very great numbers. But we know there's several structures that are coming up and coming due for a need for replacement. No matter how well you preserve something, if it's being used, and which our structures are, they need to be replaced. So we're moving some of our structures up again, trying to flatten that curve as we look at the bridges on the state highway system. But we're also taking a look at new techniques. What can we do to help make those structures last even longer? In the upper left-hand corner is a picture of a bridge with what we call riprap or rock. Really nothing special. When you drive by, you'll see this in most locations as you drive by a structure that crosses over a stream. We're incorporating new things like contraction scour, taking a look at resiliency a little bit deeper on our bridges to ensure that when those large events hits, our structures should be sound. Again, focusing on the long-term life of those structures, 100 years is really the goal. The upper right-hand corner is our unmanned aerial systems, our UAS drone program. That's been deployed for over a year. The drones we've deployed have really focused on our bridge inspections. They've not only allowed us to be more efficient, but safer. They also allow for higher quality data. So our bridge inspection teams can go out there and spend less time, get better quality, all without getting in traffic's way. Lower right-hand corner, it's just steel. And we use steel on our bridge decks, but it's a little bit different. Generally, we use an epoxy steel or plastic coated steel trying to fight corrosion. As I mentioned earlier, we have two seasons in South Dakota, right? Construction and winter. With winter comes chlorides and salts and water, steel turns to rust. So we're focusing now with a different material in our bridge decks, our stainless steel rebar. So we'll be using stainless steel, again, trying to preserve the life of those structures. We're anticipating about a 20% reduction in life cycle costs by this one innovation. Again, a great opportunity for us to deliver that best transportation system we possibly can. We need pavements and roads as well. So just a quick briefing on where our pavements are heading and where we've been. This graph shows again the historical and projected condition of our pavements across South Dakota. That black line across the bottom, that's our highest return on investment. If we can have 80% of our pavements in good to excellent condition, we're delivering the highest return on investment. It's good for us to have pavements in poor condition. Like bridges, some pavements and roads just need to be rebuilt. So those numbers are intended to be low, but we need to be able to rebuild those as well. The same with those that are in fair condition. To manage those pavements and again, try to extend their life, we've employed different technologies as well. As we take a look at the upper right-hand corner, which is our notched wedge joint on our asphalt, where the two pavement poles come together, it's helping us to improve our density or improve the long-term durability at that center line joint. We also have next generation concrete pavement in the lower right-hand corner. That's allowed for a better ride at the end of the day. And it's also allowed for easier construction. Again, taking a look at new innovations, trying to make better lives through better transportation. Intelligent compaction, which is in the upper left-hand corner. That is not a fishing fish locator or what I use is a Helix 7. I don't know if anyone uses those, but it's not a fish locator. It sure looked like one the first time I saw it, and I was a little confused what it was. But actually, it's intended to help make sure that we get good density on our asphalt by taking a look at the thermals of the asphalt pavement when the rollers go over and trying to hit it at the right time to ensure that we get a good product out there that's going to last for many years to come. Again, some of the things that we're trying to do is look at new ways to help deliver that great transportation system we all enjoy. I'm going to turn it over to Todd Seaman. He's going to talk a little bit about projects coming up in the region, then he'll turn it back over to me. So Todd.
You're about a foot taller than I am. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just want to draw your attention to the 2023. A handout you received at the door should be labeled the 2023 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program. Hopefully you find some time over the next couple of days or this evening to peruse that and look at the very large investment the department is making in the very 9 western counties of South Dakota. One thing that you'll notice when you look through the program is a very large investment we're making on structures in the western part of South Dakota. There are 33 new structure projects totaling almost $86 million. And there are additional 16 structure repair projects totaling another $12 million for a total of almost just under $100 million in structure work in western South Dakota. Of those 28 of those 49 structures are on the local system. So a very large investment in bridges in western South Dakota. When you follow along, if you want to follow along on your handout, the very left column of your handout has an item number. I will be referencing that if you want to follow along. Just going to reference a couple of projects each year. I'll start out with some resurfacing projects. Number 27 in your handout is South Dakota Highway 73. It's a resurfacing project from Highway 34 north 14 miles. That is what we call a mill and overlay project, where we mill off 1 inch of pavement and then replace that with 2 inches of new asphalt pavement. The estimated cost of that project is $5.9 million. Number 34 in your handout is South Dakota Highway 44, and that's from Scenic to west 11 miles west of Interior. That is a project that we call a full reclamation project, where we actually grind up the entire asphalt surface, replace that, and then place new asphalt on top of that, typically 4 inches. That cost of that project is estimated at $8 million. 2023 grading projects. Number 8 in your handout is South Dakota Highway 34 from Belle Fourche to Whitewood. We're adding passing lanes on that to provide some passing lanes on that stretch of Highway 34. Number 38 in your handout is US 385, and that project runs from Sheridan Lake to the Sugar Shack for all us local folks. We're doing some shoulder widening there and then improving some horizontal curves. That's the first of 3 projects on 385 that I'll be referencing tonight. The cost of that project is $29.5 million. 2024 surfacing project, number 90 in your handout, is US 16A, and that's basically through Custer State Park. That's a 12.8 mile project. Estimated cost is $5.4 million. That again is a mill and overlay project. We mill off that top inch and then replace that with 2 inches. Number 95 on your handout is US 85 from Ludlow to the North Dakota state line. That's an 8 mile project, and then again that's a total reclamation project, where we'll grind up the entire surface and then replace it with new material. Estimated cost of that project is just under $10 million. 2024 grading projects, number 102 in your handout is on I-90, exit 44 to 48. We're going to reconstruct that section of highway and also replace exit 46 fill. So still tracking for 2024 there. So estimated cost of that project is $63.4 million. Number 115 in your handout is US 18 in Pine Ridge. That project runs from just east of South Dakota Highway 407 to the hospital intersection. Estimated cost of that project is $8.6 million. Get the right button here. 5 surfacing projects. Number 162 in your handout is South Dakota 79 from South Dakota 20 north 15 miles. Again, that's a mill and overlay project, and the estimated cost of that project is $6.5 million. Number 169 in your handout is another US 385 project. That project runs from the Pactola Dam to Sugar Shack. And again, we're adding shoulders and straightening out the road, improving some horizontal curves there. That's just under a 6-mile project. Cost of that project is $6 million estimated. 2025 grading and reconstruction, number 165 in your handout is US 385 from 4 miles north of Highway 44. So the Sugar Shack again to Nemo Road, adding shoulders to that section of road. Number 169 in your handout is US 16, and it's the reconstruction of the intersection of Highway 16 and Neck Yoke Road, right down at the Reptile Gardens intersection. We're putting in a reduced conflict intersection at that location. Estimated cost of that project is $11.4 million. And 2026 surfacing projects, number 217 in your handout is Highway 385 from 4 miles north of Nemo Road, again, the Sugar Shack to Nemo Road. And that is the last surfacing project on that section, on the reconstruction of all of Highway US 385. So estimated cost of that project is $14.8 million. And number 223 in your handout is South Dakota 34 from the Belle Fourche River, 3 miles west of Union Center. That is a $9 million project, again, a mill and overlay project. And 2026 grading projects, number 215 in your handout is US 16 from basically the main drag, Mount Rushmore Road in Custer up to the Forest Service office or Buckhorn Loop. And that's a complete reconstruction project, new concrete pavement, sidewalk, roadway lighting. The estimated cost of that project is $24.4 million. And then number 233 in your handout is the intersection of US 16 and US 16B, which is at the old water slide corner. We're going to reconstruct that intersection and put in a new interchange. Estimated cost of that project is $36.8 million. As Mike pointed out in his presentation, there are some standalone safety projects in your handout. As you go through that, they range from shared use paths, signing and delineation on local roads, some high friction surface treatment. So as you go through, you'll be able to pick out some of those just standalone safety projects where we're just trying to improve one of the assets on that particular section of highway just to improve the safety. So if you have any questions on any of those projects, DOT staff will be here tonight to answer any specific questions. And now we'll get to the most important part of the meeting, your comments. Mr. Bean.
Say something, but I won't. Thank you, Todd. And thanks again for coming here tonight. We're getting to the point where we'd like to get some public testimony. What we'll have is Mr. Larry Dean in the back. He's got the microphone in his hand. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand and then introduce yourself, please, and who you represent. We are recording this, and this is for the record. This will be provided to our Transportation Commission along with the written comments as well. If you don't feel like commenting tonight on the microphone, again, you can provide the written comments. Maybe like to have a conversation afterwards. If so, I just also want to introduce John Matheson from Belle Fourche. He's over there. Tom Horan, he's our operations engineer. Rich Zocker with Custer, and then Mike Carlson with Rapid City. So if you have a specific project in one of those areas, they're great resources for you as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started here tonight. And again, if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand and Larry will bring you the microphone. I know we had one on, do we have one on online, Levi? Question is, are the cost estimates in the program based upon historical or inflationary rates? Has it been adjusted over time? Haven't seen inflation like this in about 40 years. Yeah, great question. Generally, we've seen some pretty significant inflation, just like everybody has and everything that they're doing. About 35 to 45% since pre-COVID has been fairly normal for our inflation, but we do update our estimates, every year and before they're let. So we're trying to stay on top of the market. And for those either in the construction area or having to procure equipment or materials, you recognize right now is very difficult with supply chains. Some of the things that were very easy to get 2 months ago, all of a sudden are 2 months out. So we're seeing some of those struggles as well, but we are attempting to update it. And yes, the inflationary impacts are significant for us in the construction realm. Great question.
Yeah, Phil will break this.
Yeah, I'm ready to comment a little bit, Todd.
Thank you. My name is Phil Anderson. I'm the mayor of Piedmont, or the president of the board of trustees. I'd like to start off by saying we're just thrilled with how we're finally coming forward on Highway 40, or interchange on exit 48. Excuse me, 46. It's great. It's been needed for a long time. I know one of the safety things that you emphasize safety is that bridge when they rebuilt it 40 years ago, and they put the hump in it so the trucks and stuff could get underneath it. Then they lowered the speed limit to 15 miles an hour. And I know we set speed limits by how many people are exceeding them, but everybody exceeds that speed limit on that. And that thing is very unsafe, and we're really tickled to have DOT moving forward. I know it's one of the biggest projects you probably got in the state for the next couple of years. With that said, and emphasizing safety once again, and I talked about this at our Meade County plan meeting here a month ago. Piedmont, when they were first platted out, were platted out with 80-foot right-of-ways in their streets. When they replaced the wagon trail going through Piedmont with Highway 1416, and I'm assuming that was back in the 20s. Everything was well and good. In the mid 50s, when the interstate went through, and we had some lawsuits over this, but they turned the old Highway 1416 into the frontage road, but they took about 20 feet of the right of way for the eastbound lane of the interstate. So now we're sitting there with businesses on the frontage road, backing out into the right of way. The entire frontage road from Tilford to Blackhawk is 3 lanes, except for where it goes through Piedmont, and there it narrows down to a 50-foot right of way or 60-foot right of way. We've got a truck stop there. We have no room for rumble strips in that section. But we've got a new truck stop that's expanded down there, and with the completion of exit 44, a lot of those trucks are taking the exit 44 to go to the truck stop. So we're seeing semis going through our town at 40-45 miles an hour down a road that's only has no shoulders. It's got a barrier on the left side, and we would really like to see some consideration given to expanding that right of way back to what it used to be before the state took it for the interstate. We know there's 180 foot because we measured it today. There's 180 feet of blank space from the main line of the railroad to the shoulder of the westbound lane of the interstate. We were told when they put the frontage road in that the interstate would be moved over. That's why they took the frontage road out on the Mike, I can't do this, on the east side of the interstate. I can't keep track of north and south. And I was told to meet on Mr. North and South. But when they took that out, they were supposed to move the interstate to the east in that section, and they're still going to do that. We'd like to see them move it a little further so that we can get our full right of way back, so that we could then have 3 lanes going through town, to where if a truck is coming down and somebody's backing out of one of the businesses on the street, that they would be able to have some chance of not killing them. Because we're looking at T-bone happening there. The speed is excessive, visibility is bad. We bought some land from you guys, Todd. We'd be willing to give that land back to the railroad if they wanted to move that siding that they've got in the center of town up north. It would provide better access. They wouldn't be driving over the main line of the road to get to their siding, and it might be a good solution. But we'd like to visit with everybody about that. Mr. Secretary, we think would be a good solution to talk Surface Transportation, say, why do we have this siding? The trains come through, they're blowing their horns 3 or 4 times a day, in the center of town, because the siding is on the interstate side of the mainland, the railroad. And we'd be willing to give that section that we bought from you back just to get that siding out so that we could widen our frontage road through the town. Thanks for your consideration. And I'll talk with all of you more about it, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. And it looks like the comms came through on for the folks online, so I won't repeat it. I do my best. I don't know I could do it as well as you did though, but thank you. And you guys been here for several years promoting this project and the need out there. So I mean, that's what we're looking for. And we'd love to have you here. So thanks for coming. As it relates to the frontage road and space and multiple lanes or getting additional width in there, it's a constrained area. And I think we got to acknowledge that. We got the rail on one side, of course, got Piedmont there. So we're trying to optimize it to the best of our ability with, of course, not having too much impacts. And I think we are shifting, if I remember, at the westbound lanes are shifting out a little bit. But we'll take a look and see if there's anything we can do. But I think we're again, trying to optimize everything we can through that corridor. So thank you very much. Yep.
Ron Roskinek, Benning County Commissioner, District 1, should be the Black Hills. So that relative to the widening of 385, I know I was informed by our planning department that there's 2 businesses that it appears that some of their parking lot would be in the DOT right of way. So I just wondered how those would be addressed going into the future.
Yeah, great question, Ron. I'm not exactly familiar with what location you're talking about. I know that we do have, is that Rich's, is that yours? Yep, we can,
Yeah.
yep, we can definitely look at that and with Rich afterwards to get more details on it. Generally, if there's a property need that we'd have to have in order to build a road, we purchase the property rights from that individual in order to make them whole. So just from that standpoint, that's generally what happens if we need to purchase a property right from somebody. If it's in the existing right of way, then those are things that we kind of have to work through and work through those issues. But Rich has got the details over there, so let's visit afterwards and see exactly what you're talking about. Let's see what we can do. That works.
I appreciate that going in the future. I know that's going to be, I'm going to be approached. So I just like to know that we can work with South Dakota DOT.
Definitely. Yep. Thank you, Ron.
Brent Hardy, city engineer for Belle Fourche. First off, we want to thank you for the traffic light at 85 and 34. That's definitely
Is it working?
improvements in there. Yeah, as soon as
Good.
people got used to it, there's a few growing pains. Just kind of what we came to ask for is consider urban section along 85 from the Hay Creek Bridge south to 34. We've had this. Just want to keep it on your guys' radar, as well as couple things we wanted to add this year were maybe look at turn lanes on 85 into what is the Hat Ranch development. It's about midway between Belle Fourche and Spearfish. It's seeing quite a bit of growth, and obviously a lot of traffic goes back and forth between Belle Fourche and Spearfish. And another development that's coming in was going between Highway 34 and Seabock Avenue in Belle Fourche, and we'd like to see a connector of what is our 8th Avenue down to Seabock, so we don't have to have all the traffic go over to Highway 85 if they're going on Highway 34. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Thank you. And thanks for coming. City of Belle Fourche has been here for every year or two. So again, great relationship with the city. So thanks for coming out again tonight. I know as we look at the replacement Belle Fourche River, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us, just the construction activities themselves. As far as the lane configuration, John's right here. I think he knows what the lane configuration is. And again, we kind of talk about what that looks like.
Yeah, we were talking before the meeting, so.
Okay. As far as the turn lane, south and 85 between Spearfish and Bell, John, I'm not familiar with that, but that's something that we can probably take a look at and see what the traffic volumes look like. And see if there's a need for something out there. The connection of 34 and I think called it 8th Street, if that right. I'm not familiar with that, but generally any connections for a local street into a state highway would be the responsibility of local government to do that. But again, I don't know the details of it, so we can definitely look with John and see what the issues are and see if there's a solution out there. So great, thank you for your comments. Thanks for coming. Anything online, Levi? Anyone else here tonight? Great. You're good.
This is much a point of information for me. Bill Evans with Rapid City Council. And he talked about a stoplight you guys put in. I have a question about traffic light timings and which ones are actually controlled by us, which ones are controlled by you, and how can we go about getting some of those adjusted? For instance, some of our lights are demand lights and it's very convenient, they work. I get concerned at say 1 or 2 in the morning when we're on Omaha and 5th and we have to sit through 2, 3, 4 minutes because it seems interminable. Maybe it's not that long, but it sure seems that long when there's no traffic. And we're wondering how those timings are set and how often they're adjusted and how often they're monitored. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Generally, when we get to our larger communities like we have with Rapid City, we will have an agreement in place for who takes over and who has responsibility for the signal timings, even on the state highway system. So usually there's an agreement in place. We can reference that. My guess right now is that's the city's responsibility for signal timing. That's under the city's purview to do that. I do know on Omaha, it would have been, gosh, probably 3-4 years ago, we're working through some accessibility and pet push button things to kind of help to optimize some of that signal timing. So, hopefully that's not the issue and hopefully that got corrected, but definitely we can sit down and visit with Todd or Mike about what the agreement says and who does what and how can they be timed. There's just different steps that if they are timed differently to share that with us when they happen and some of those things as well. But we should have access to an agreement that we can share with you and make sure we're all on the same page. Anyone else tonight? If not, we will be here. This isn't your only chance. So again. Well, again, I want to say thank you to everybody tonight for coming out. Really appreciate your investment and engagement in this. Again, please share the information with others. There's ways to get a hold of us on our email and provide comments and thoughts. Our Transportation Commission is likely will take action on the program here in August. And with that, we'll start moving on through the next year. So thanks for coming. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say on your way home tonight, wear your seatbelt, don't drink and drive, put your cell phone away, put it in the glove box and drive safe. There's a lot of other people that use the roads, so don't be selfish. And again, thanks for coming out tonight. Have a great night.